I'm kidding. My mic should be working. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody is well. I'm back. I've had my week's holiday in sunny Melton Mowbray. Took lots of photos and all that kind of stuff, and hung out with my brother for the weekend, so that was really good. I don't know if my brother's probably lurking in the chat somewhere. He'll be around. A little bit of a change up today. I was asked about, doing a bit of a Ramble-Holic and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, we'll try something out a bit today. So the movie will start at 9 o'clock. We're going to start the movie at that point. But up until then, we'll do a little bit of a chat and all that kind of stuff, and we'll see how it goes. Basically, dear, yeah, it's been a interesting week. I went over to my brother's, like I say, took loads of photos in St Mary's Church, which is a rather spectacular church for the town, and took some photos of an old hospital section that's due to be demolished, which is really kind of mildly upsetting. It's an interesting looking building, and with a really interesting history. So yeah. May I suggest you put a timer up when the... I would, but I haven't got one ready, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's an interesting history to that hospital. It's kind of a shame that it's going to be going, and even more of a shame that I can't get in there and document. But I did take some photos from the outside and got told off by security for climbing on a wall. Urbex. They couldn't exactly arrest me or nothing because I wasn't on private property at that point. But yeah. Actually, they were really nice about it. They weren't arseholes, so it was all good. Dear, oh dear. Just want to give a little shout out to my friend Newt Wallen, who you might remember from the Mausoleum watch along that we did. He's ended up in hospital today. Had a bit of a medical issue, so all the best to you, Newt, and hope you get well soon. As far as I can tell, it wasn't anything too serious, but it was worrying. So, yeah, my best wishes go out to him. Not that he'll be watching this. I imagine he's probably laid up and healing, shall we say. So, yeah, it was a bit of a shock. I just saw it on Facebook a little bit earlier on. It's a very interesting guy, very nice, very talented, very hardworking. I suspect he probably has been working just a bit too hard. And that can happen if you don't make time for yourself. But he's a very driven guy when it comes to his creative output. He's just constantly posting about all these things that he's doing. It's quite inspirational in some respects. So get well soon, Newt. I hope it all goes well. I hope the bills aren't too much as well, because being in America, I imagine he's insured and all that kind of stuff, but even so, it can be a real bitch over there, I can tell you that much. Dear. So, I think... I guess I'll start by showing you just a few of the pickups that I've got. I just picked up Cypress Hill Black Sunday album and I had to listen to that yesterday. Pretty good. I might get some more hip hop stuff because normally I've never really gone down that route when it comes to the music sort of stuff. But I've had a bit of a drive to listen to some recently. And it's partly been fueled by Todd in the Shadows videos because he talks about hip hop and all that kind of stuff a lot. So, so new musical avenue. But the first one to show, obviously, one of my guilty pleasures, Jackass. It's got all the movies on there and the lost tapes, which I don't know exactly what is on there. I think it's outtakes from the original TV series, the MTV series. So why not? Jackass is pretty cool. Which is actually, there's been a whole bunch of stuff with Bam Margera just recently as well, because now apparently he's trying to stop the new Jackass getting released because he's had a falling out with everybody, and now he's kind of really sort of kind of kicking off about various things And it's a shame because I like Bam, but he's acting like a bit of a weird one. I hope he gets better. I really do, because it'd be kind of cool to see him sort of come back to all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Jackass isn't for everyone. Sometimes I just like it because it's dumb. And it really is. It's like kind of really sort of low grade stuff, just seeing people doing the stupidest stuff. And funny enough, it's one of the things, because there was a lot of criticisms of Jackass when it first started coming out, because there was people imitating it. So I had to put that disclaimer at the beginning: don't try this, we're trained professionals, yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. And it turns out that there was which movie was it? It was oh yes, I Am Legend has been cited as one of the things that anti-vaxxers have been kind of banging on about as a source. So they begin, yeah, because the vaccines do this, like in I Am Legend. You sort of go, oh my god, really? Yeah, it's honestly, it's the sort of thing that people the sort of thing that people do that make you kind of go, I'm not so sure about the anti-censorship thing anymore. Because you go, movies don't really sort of drive people to do silly things, but apparently, there are occasions where it does happen. It got so bad that even the I think it was the director chipped in on the Twitter feed about it, saying it's just a movie, it's not a documentary kind of thing. You go, oh my god. Just let me know if the audio's okay, because I had to kind of do some remedial stuff to it. So if it just gives a thumbs up if the audio's okay while I think about it. Hopefully it'll be fine. I think there was a weird thing with some of the settings and stuff last time we did this thing. I Am Legend, this is why education is vital, folks. Yes, that is quite right. You did see Bad Grandpa. Yeah, Bad Grandpa was an offshoot of Jackass. There's a sketch they did with Johnny Knoxville and Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze had dressed up as an old lady and had all the makeup and all that kind of stuff, and Johnny Knoxville would do a similar sort of thing. Yeah. You saw the first, the new Suicide Squad, and it's everything the first one wanted to be. I've heard better things about it. My sound's perfect, thank you, Richard. Did you see a video on YouTube about an anti-vaxxer who was offered $10,000 to say he wouldn't mention the AstraZeneca vaccine in his speech, but all he got was Monopoly money? No, I didn't, but that's kind of funny. I had to swallow my pride a little bit as well over the last weekend, because I went into CEX and I picked up Island of Death, the Arrow version. I still maintain it's a pretty good film, barking mad and all that kind of stuff. It's my disagreements with the director aside, I thought I would give that a try. I haven't watched this DVD yet, but as far as I can tell, there's some pretty cool stuff on there. The other thing I picked up was the first 3 Hellraisers on the Arrow box set, which was kind of cool. I have to point out, I've got noise cancelling headphones on. I picked some of these things up. So it's really weird. I can do that. I can barely hear it, but you'll be picking it up. Master Echoes will be laughing to himself now. Actually, I mean, it is second-hand, so he's not getting a penny of that. That's one of the arguments against being able to resell media, and that's kind of one of the reasons why they want to go into digital. I'm kind of looking forward to watching that, and see what extra stuff is on there, because just because Arrow usually does such a good job with these things, and it does appear to be quite a lot of interesting stuff on there. What are my disagreements with the Island of Death director? He struck down 2 of my videos, Iris, citing copyright, but completely ignoring fair use. He struck down the commentary track, which had, literally no more than about 20 seconds of footage in there, muted. I mean, it was only used as a reference to keep people sort of in track with the rest of the commentary, and he felt the need to strike that down, and then acted like a dick about it. So that was my disagreement with the director. Were you negative in your commentary or something? No, actually, it was quite a positive one. I mean, obviously, there's some criticism in there, but for the most part, it was like, actually, it's kind of got some interesting little things going on in the film. And the first time I did it, it got struck down by someone, I think for community guidelines or something like that. And then I redid it, and then it got struck down by the director. Great Arrow pickups. Glenn picked up quite a few Arrow Blu-rays recently, including the Solid Metal Nightmares box. Okay, cool. I don't know that stuff, but it sounds interesting. Arrow's great, but I recently heard they've gone down in quality. Spaghetti Western sets, one example, still like them. They've had a few sort of misses along the way. Have Arrow, one way or another. I think one of the David Cronenberg ones, I think it might have been Rabid, had a funny kind of cut version, which is what they sent out. They didn't realise until they'd actually sort of produced it and sent it out. Anyone pick up the Arrow Demons 4K? I'm not sure you need Demons in 4K, but hey, whatever. Richard says, remember that, Glenn? You had to do another commentary. Yeah, I took out all the reference footage on it. It was, and then I put it at the beginning because I knew he would go and look at it. He's probably gone and checked it over, because he manually found those things. He was obviously vanity searching Google, found my channel, found these things, and then kind of went nope. And I don't know if it's anything to do with the fact that he was doing the thing for Arrow and thought it would cost him some money. And I don't see how that would be the case, but there you go. Didn't they release Crash with a stupid price tag? I think Arrow's not the cheapest on the planet, but I think it's justifiable. They're not like stupidly expensive most of the time, but considering physical media is becoming a more niche thing, I think that is probably the way it's going to go. Which leads us actually into the one thing that I was going to particularly talk about, because I was asked about kind of like doing sort of Ramble-Holic and all that kind of stuff, which is what we're doing for this first hour, and what I put out a question: what would you like to talk about? And I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but talking about some of my favourite pieces of physical media that I own and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I have a bunch of stuff down here which we will go through. Not seeing Crash, is it good? Yes, it's a very thoughtful David Cronenberg movie. Not terribly entertaining in the way that you would imagine, but it's actually pretty good. Should look into buying things from Eureka. There's a load of good distributors out there. Obviously, there's the two that I did, and I've actually been having a conversation with Mirko about some of the ones that I haven't got. So there's at least two others that I haven't got that I did do stuff for, which was Mountain of the Cannibal God and Absurd, and hopefully I'll get copies of those at some point. Still not crossing my fingers too hard. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, but obviously these are two that he asked me to do, and the Mikey one is one I did with Josh Hadley along the way, which was quite entertaining. Can't afford their releases all the time. No, they are kind of expensive to be buying all the time, but I do generally like the thought that they put into their packages. It's kind of good. Mikey's that movie is still banned in the UK. It is banned in the UK, but I think it hasn't. It's largely because it hasn't been resubmitted. It was banned at the time because of James Bulger's murder. and they were so unlucky. They were so unlucky because they were supposed to have been releasing before the Christmas of that year, and due to a delay with the packaging review committee, that's part of the BBFC process, they got delayed until the new year, and then James Bulger's murder happened in between, and the BBFC had already provisionally given them a certificate, hadn't officially given them a certificate, but were like, yeah, this will be fine, and then they basically had to turn around and go, no, can't do it, which I can kind of understand, because I think, and it sounds very self-serving, I think if they had released it, they would have been facing an awful lot of very heavy attacks for that. Now, you can argue that the BBFC should be able to face that, but it would put them in a very tenuous position, so they kind of went, eh. Received Mikey in the post today, released on Blu-ray by MVD on their Rewind collection. Yeah, this is the XS edition, which is a German release. I think it's actually, I think it's released in Austria, something like that, and then it's because they got more liberal censorship laws, and then the Germans, because it's German language, they can kind of buy it from there. It's quite nice. It's one of these digibook type things, yeah. Of course, I can't read any of that, because it's kind of cool to have. Have you seen Possessor directed by David Cronenberg? No, I haven't, actually. I do want to catch that movie, though. And I might be doing that at some point very soon. I'm interested to see what he's got. Although, speaking David Cronenberg, he is apparently releasing a film called Crimes of the Future, which I kind of went, is he actually remaking his own film? Because Crimes of the Future was one of the really early Cronenberg films. So there was that and Stereo, which are kind of two feature-length films that he did back in his university days. And Crimes of the Future is one of those which has a very, very tricky kind of moral quandary as part of it, which is very, David Cronenberg. In that the crux of the story is that there's some sort of illness that is afflicting everyone in the world that strikes young women down to be infertile. So as soon as they reach sexual maturity, they very, very rapidly lose their ability to have children. You can kind of see where it sort of leads, and where it sort of sets a very tricky kind of moral quandary. Survival of the human race versus transgressing certain sexual taboos. And I was kind of like, well, is he remaking it? And if so, how could he? Because I think he could get away with it at the time. Because it was a very small movie, it was unknown and all that kind of stuff, and it was a very different time. Even then, it would have been a very controversial subject, but particularly now. And from what I can tell, it's a completely different film. I think he's just taken the title, and there may be some kind of crossover of the themes and that kind of thing. But yeah, what's your favourite Cronenberg? Mine is The Brood. Probably Videodrome. That is a hell of a film. A fascinating one as well. But I like pretty much most of the Cronenberg stuff, to one extent or another. Yeah, Rabbids very good as well. Marilyn Chambers in that is really good, although apparently she did not like the film. But she did a great job in it. Not bad for a hardcore porn actress. That's the thing, Kerry, isn't it? It's what we were discussing when we watched it on Amazon. You have that sort of progression in his history, which is in his filmography, which goes from kind of like the body horror sort of end to it to sort of like a mental horror kind of thing, and the Brood's sort of like that dividing line, sort of a psychological kind of edge, which goes in much later in the career, or it's kind of there in one extent or another, but it sort of like crosses over from the body to the mind. Marilyn Chambers proof porn actors can act well. Some can, I mean, although she never really sort of went for the basic sort of just straight acting roles other than with Rabid. And I'm not quite sure how she got cast for that or why she was cast for that, but she was certainly interesting casting for that, and I certainly appreciated it. It did start with the Brood though. It certainly started in its more overt kind of aspect in that. I mean, you got something like Rabid and Shivers. It's this sort of the infection is what is the character, if you like. But yeah. So go for a few of these. Most of the ones I'll show you are probably going to be VHS. I think for the most part, just because. When it comes to that kind of like physical media sort of stuff, that's the stuff I grew up with. Although there are plenty of DVDs and stuff and Blu-rays which are kind of important to me. One of the things is a lot of those are a lot more available. So although this is a very available film, obviously, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I picked up in about 92, I think it was, 91, 92. From a friend. I paid about 15 quid for it or something like that, and it was one of the first of the video nasty type films that I managed to pick up, and I remember wanting to really see this, and it's not a bad copy actually. It's not in the worst of conditions. It's a little moth-eaten, right? But so. When I got rid of a load of VHS when I was going to university, that was one of the few that I actually managed to keep. And it's, I mean, it's such a wonderful sort of cover as well, really. I mean, so basic, so early VHS, and in that respect, I kind of like it. And also, watching this film on VHS is a very different experience to watching it on something like DVD and the nicely upscaled and all that kind of stuff. There's something about that copy, just the roughness of the VHS, and that must have been played a million times. But yeah, and when it comes to kind of VHS and stuff like that, I tend to get stuff which is more unusual or unavailable, and two of these here are kind of important. I did get this. I got this sent to me from Australia when I was doing Section 3. And I kind of like mentioned on Facebook that I was struggling to find this one. This is one of the hard ones to find of the Section 3 list. And it was like, this guy goes, oh, yeah, I've got it. I've got a copy here. Would you like to get it? Because I'm not going to watch it again. I went, yeah, no worries. And he sent it over to me, paid the postage. And eventually I got that and I reviewed it. This is another one of those that the director himself sort of commented on my video. I think he was pissed off that I didn't give it a terribly good review, bragging on I was going to do a Blu-ray and stuff, and I don't think that ever happened. I've not seen it, if it's around, but I wouldn't actually mind seeing it. It's a bit of a odd rape revenge kind of film. Yeah. It wants to be I Spit on Your Grave, but it's a bit clunky. Not the worst film I've ever seen, but also not the best by some margin, to say the least. Another one which is kind of rare, Suicide Cult. And this is one of the reasons why, stuff like this is kind of important. Films like this would have largely disappeared. I don't think anybody would be able to get hold of this if it wasn't for the fact that there's copies of it floating around on VHS. Has to be said though, this is a very beat up copy. It has had some rather extensive playing, shall we say. It is not in the greatest of condition, but I did get to see it. You know, I'd be interested to see a full sort of restored and director approved version of it. Not that it would make it a great film. It's a bit hokey. Because there's this whole sort of aspect of it that astrology is real. And you've got scientists kind of talking about astrology as being very, very real and all that kind of stuff. So it's a bit kind of... you've got a lot of disbelief to suspend, put it that way. Hello, Simon. Good to see you, man. Yes, it was James Glickenhaus. So, yeah. It's, again... another very, very hard one to find. I managed to sort of grab this off of... God, these are dusty. I managed to grab this off of eBay. And I think I paid quite a bit of money for it. It wasn't like super expensive. It was like about... I don't know, 40 or 50 quid I think it was at the time. Probably way too much for the cassette, but it was like one of those... Yeah, but I need that one. So it was another one for Section 3. People think that, you know, doing the YouTubing stuff is like kind of free and, you know, yeah, oh, it's all cheap production. No, I've spent thousands of pounds on making like the Nasties review in Section 3. Really have. Another part of having physical media is the sort of archiving of these things, and this is always one of my go-to examples, is the two versions of Evil Speak. So you've got the pre-cert version and you've got the post-cert version, and I've pointed it out before, but see if I can get this to pick up on the camera. Yeah, you can just about see that. It says, edited to conform with the Video Recordings Act 1984. And seeing the difference between that and that version is actually quite fascinating if you're into that sort of, like, you know, what did it cut out and all that kind of stuff. So for that, I mean, I originally had that. I got rid of it at one point, and then I picked up another version, you know, about a couple of years ago, I think it was. Hello, Brian. What did you spend the money on? It sounds like a lot even for pro editing software in the movies. Obviously, I've spent over the time, I've spent about at least £100 on software for editing, plus software for ripping, playback devices. Bear in mind, some of the films were like, you know, anything up to 80 quid. Plus there's 140 odd films that I had to buy. Each, you know, ranging from about a £5 to about 25, 30, 40 pounds. So yeah, it rapidly kind of ticks up. You'd be surprised. And obviously the computer and stuff like that, because I've had to upgrade my computer to do various things as the kind of, like, you know, the technology that my needs for the technology has kind of risen. I've had to sort of up that sort of stuff. I'm working with a 3-screen setup here, for instance, because it makes doing the streaming a lot easier. So I've got Movie, I've got OBS, and I've got the control and monitoring software on the right hand screen. You could argue that it's a little over the top, but it makes the job easier. And partly it's been because, you know, I've used it for my job as well. Yeah. There's another couple of the rarer films. I don't know if that's got a Blu-ray of it now, but that was otherwise known as Pranks. It was one of the more lurid covers, shall we say, of the Video Nasties era. At the time, I could not find it for love nor money. I hate these American cartons as well, but this is a NTSC version. Luckily, my players will play them. So, what's my favourite film? I don't really have a specific favourite, but in general, I guess Eraserhead is right up there. It's always one of my go-tos when it comes to that sort of stuff, but not a video nasty. When it comes to video nasty, I don't know. There's a few. I mean, obviously, Evil Dead is a big one when it comes to that sort of stuff. Dawn That Drip Blood Pranks does have a Blu-ray disc. Okay. That must be a relatively recent one, because when I got that, when I needed that, it wasn't available. There's Boogeyman 2 as well, and now I've got the British version of this as well. And seeing the difference between it is quite astounding. But that is the original film, uncut, and it's very easy to... Because there's like a couple of different modified versions of this film, and it's a bit awful. The Redux version. This is, like I say, that's the original kind of movie, and interesting one, interesting premise to it. But you do get the feeling that Uli Lamel was basically trolling Hollywood when he did that. What do you think of Lynch's Dune? Funny enough. Another one for various different versions. Now, one of the things about kind of like digital distribution is you tend to get like kind of one version that'll be knocking around, and a lot of versions will go missing. So, Dune. See if I can do this. There we go. Now, if I remember rightly, this version and this version are more or less the same. However, the special TV version here, which is a very, very different version, it's got a whole bunch of extra stuff in it. Also in there, although it's not the official thing, I do have... which one is it? I've got a DVD-R in there as well, which has 2 more versions of this film. So I've got a lot of versions of Dune. When I went to see Dune on the big screen, they had the 32mm presentation of it. Was it 7? Oh, I don't know. It was one of the larger formats, and it was so badly presented. Like me and my mate John, who I had on for one of the watch-alongs. When we saw that, and we were both sat there looking at each other going, what the hell are they showing us here? Because it's supposed to be like a really big event of a film, that it's going to be a good version of it, and it's like, you know, the titles come up and it's all cropped off and stuff like that. It's like awful. It was awful. Waiting the Arrow 4K release of Dune box set looks good, packed with good features. Oh, that's cool. You thought he was bad with Nosferatu? It is one of those things. It's like Eraserhead. I've got 3 different versions of Eraserhead. So there's the Criterion Collection version, which has the fucked up bit on it, basically. It's right in the finale, when the lady in the radiator hugs Henry. And it kind of supposed to sort of go like blinding light. And on this version it cuts to black. It's kind of weird. How they fucked that up, I got no idea. So I got the British Blu-ray version, just because it's easier to play than this version, because this is NTSC. This is the region A for the Blu-ray. That's the original version that I had, the earliest version that I had. So yeah, but each has different special features and all that kind of stuff on, so I didn't want to get rid of any version of it. That is a beautiful version though. It's probably the best version, but it's hardest for me to play. It's not typical with the whole kind of Blu-ray thing, that one of the outstanding features of Blu-ray is it makes your life a lot more difficult when it comes to playback. Because of region locking and because of the cost of the codecs, which means that the playback software is expensive and all that kind of stuff. It's really annoying. Yeah, John is John's a lovely guy, and we'll look at getting him back on at some point. By all means, that would be good. Been refusing to submit an age verification thing, but submitted just now and realised I was being denied a Lappy Man watch along. Yeah. I wouldn't be too worried about the age verification thing. You know, I mean, the only time you really need to be particularly anonymous is if you're doing something a little bit kind of edgy, shall we say. I've played my DVD to death. Okay. John is very knowledgeable. He's a veritable encyclopedia of films. He's like a British Josh Hadley, but happier. Did have one more VHS. I got that. Like, no, the film's kind of neither here nor there really, but it is Robert Ginty again. Rip Torn. The film's neither here nor there really, but look at that artwork. Isn't that spectacular? I picked it up on the strength of that. It wasn't an expensive buy. And that is one of the things. You get the relatively small package that a DVD comes in. There's always something about that, you know, especially these VTC cases, which are wonderful sort of gold affairs. You know, because it's supposed to be kind of like glassy and all that kind of stuff. But, case is in pretty good condition on this one as well. It's surprising how well some of these have survived. Unofficial 18 certificate on it. So on the more kind of like sort of interesting side is in terms of kind of like what it represents as the Box of the Band 1 and 2. The films are in various conditions of completeness, shall we say. Generally speaking, Box of the Band 2 is the better one. Box of the Band 1 has the least good versions and the more kind of readily available anyway sort of version. So there's Evil Dead, Driller Killer, Zombie Flesh Eaters, which I think is probably one of the slightly cut ones. I Spit on Your Grave, which is definitely cut. Very definitely cut. Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, which has an interesting history, to say the least. Last House on the Left, and why I got Box of the Band 1, because I never had it before, was because I wanted the extra of Band of Sadist videos. There's Band of Sadist videos part 1 and 2, little documentaries on there, which kind of preceded the likes of, if I can get this without it all falling to pieces, obviously the Video Nasties definitive documentary part 1 and 2, which I have a tiny little cameo in the first one. Stretching it a bit. They have a picture of a YouTube page, and the thumbnail for my Cannibal Holocaust video is on that. I didn't realise until somebody kind of pointed it out to me when we walked out of the cinema, because I saw that at Fright Fest, and it was like, I had to go along and see that. It was really, really good documentary, obviously, and quite a good vibe going to see it at the cinema. So, but if you haven't got these, and I suspect most of you have got these, very, very good. I did get into trouble with the maker of these, because when I started doing section 3, he wasn't terribly happy. Though he sort of came round and sort of went, begrudgingly went, yeah, okay, but he never talked to me after that, which is a shame really, because I got a lot of respect for the guy. Missed your cameo in the Video Nasties box. It's not really a cameo. The Video Nasties definitive documentary, like I say, there's a bit where they talk about YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and there's a YouTube page, and then there's one of my thumbnails is up there. So I claim it as a cameo. It's not as extensive a kind of appearance as obviously I do I've done in various other things, especially with the Blu-rays that I've kind of made stuff for. which I was talking to Mirko about earlier on, and the one thing I hadn't realised was that actually he was the guy that was responsible for the extended Mall Hours cut of Dawn of the Dead. He was one of the guys responsible for that, which I think is really fucking cool. Because we did a watch along of it a while back, didn't we? And credited for helping compile the trailers in the first of those documentaries. Yes, I remember you doing that. Yeah. It's that's the thing with Simon is he's a very it's a very useful guy when it comes to finding all that kind of stuff. Has quite a bit of this sort of esoterica knocking around. And I do remember, like in my early days of sort of researching all the video nasties and stuff, it was some of your work, Simon, that I actually kind of turned to, pointed me in various different directions. So yeah, always got respect for you, man. Absolutely. But yeah. So there's just a few of the bits and pieces that I kind of consider to be important in my collection. It's not by any means the be all and end all, because there is a lot of stuff that I've got which is important for one reason or another. I think when it comes to physical media and all that kind of stuff, it's such an important thing to be able to have. Having these various different versions with the various different extras. I don't think there's really much of a drive when it comes to digital platforms to put extras on, and because there's a certain amount of how do you present it? Do you have to set up a page for it, or all that kind of stuff? And not least that when you get something which is taking up space on somebody's server, that's money. So you might spend that £12 to get that online video. But unless you're allowed to download it, or unless you're encouraged to download it, it can go away. Because there's going to be a point where these companies are going to go, we ain't making any money out of these films, but we're paying thousands of pounds a year to have it up on the servers. So they will eventually sort of get rid of them, and you will not own. You will not have any right to kind of complain. Well, you've got a right to complain, but you won't have a foot to stand on when it comes legally to keeping that stuff. And, while it's not so much of a problem with like big Hollywood films, because they will always be around one way or another, generally speaking, although it's not always the case. When it comes to the smaller niche things, there's only so far that you can sort of stretch a continuing sort of archive of that sort of stuff, unless you're a very specialist website that can really kind of hold on to that stuff. What's the worst film you've ever seen? Is it Cold Fish? Yes, Cold Fish I think is probably one of the most offensively bad films that I've seen. Currently trying to locate a cheap copy of Nude for Satan, which is, to my shame, a movie directed by Batzella. I think HMV has it. Well, I don't know that one. Although I did actually kind of have a look around trying to find Melancholy of Angels. Prompted really by something that's going to be happening tomorrow. And I haven't mentioned it up to this point, I don't think, other than on Facebook. Tomorrow night... Horrible Reviews is premiering a new video. It is a 3 hours 40-minute extravaganza of disturbing movie reviews. Now, Jerome asked me to contribute, and I contributed to 3 reviews for that video, and it is going to be. I think it's happening at 7 o'clock British time. On Horrible Reviews channel. He will be in the chat as it premieres. I will probably be watching along with it, and there's some interesting stuff on there. Not just myself, but a whole bunch of rather interesting YouTubers like myself reviewing a lot of films that are very challenging in one way or another. So that will be something for you to look forward to if you've got nothing to do of a Saturday night. There you go. So I thought I'd have to get that little shout out. See, the media tried to blame that shooting in Plymouth on the Terminator. It was something to do with the way he kind of like says. Apparently, he kind of like said something along the lines of, kind of cooing over how determined that the Terminator was. It's brutally damaged but keeps going and all that kind of stuff to complete its mission. Now, if they're going to turn around and blame that film with any kind of sincerity, then I don't know. Are we going to go to another video nasties kind of thing? Potentially we could go into the kind of 90s rehash of, but I don't think it's going to go too far on this occasion. I know you don't want to analyse Melancholy de Anger, but you could do Cannibal instead, perhaps. I'd have to get hold of a copy of it. It's like some of these films are really difficult to get hold of. There's a few films like Slaughtered Vomit Dolls and all that kind of stuff which have been asked about for like in extremis, which I'm not particularly inclined to do, but I mean just looking around and trying to get hold of those things is really, really difficult. Very expensive, very rare. But Cannibal, yeah, I'd give Cannibal a go. Whether I'd review it or not is another matter. Should have kept going to the brothel, swinger club, etc. Oh, SVD, forget that shit. Okay. Melancholy de Anger is on YouTube. Is it really? Okay. Slaughtered Vomit Dolls sounds too off-putting even for me. It's very much along that whole kind of August Underground Mordom kind of thing, where it's this sort of vomit fetish kind of thing, and it's just not something I've got much patience for. I don't think. I think it's a very specific audience, and I'm not part of it. I think I would find it literally impossible to review with any kind of to review and make it worthwhile. You know, when I kind of look at something like that, it's like, why am I watching this? There is an argument with some of those films that they're a sort of experimental cinema, but yeah. Gotta hope the BBFC won't put films in limbo. First Natural Born Killers, now the Terminator. I don't think they can recall the certificate of the Terminator at this point. I don't think they would be particularly inclined to do that. I mean, as annoying as they can be sometimes, I think they've got enough sense to kind of look at it and go, look, come on, guys. This is a film that's been out for how many years? You know, why would we kind of turn around and ban it now because one person cited it in a comment on something in a very sort of roundabout kind of way, not even related to what was going on. So they're basically fetish porn movies, not worth the time of day. It's kind of the feeling I got from it, but like I say, there's a certain amount of kind of underground experimental extreme sort of thing going on, which some people may get something out of. Just not me. Vomit Dolls sound like something John Waters would market. I think it's probably they're a bit mean-spirited for John Waters, probably. Should have banned Terminator as the Chinese built Skynet to monitor its citizens. God. Ah, dear. You wouldn't vomit dolls. It's just girls being sick. They're crap. Like I say, I mean, I wouldn't go out my way for them. What I've seen of them, what I understand of them, I just know those films aren't for me. And occasionally you get films like that. You sort of have to go, could I really give it an honest review? And I think I said that about all the August Underground films. You know, people going, "Oh, the August Underground films, you got to review them." I'm like, kind of, I don't think I've really got anything to say that'll last more than 2 minutes about films like that. He said as someone writing a novel where someone eats poop. I've got a film for that. I've got 2 versions of it as well, you know, since we're talking about physical media and me owning multiple copies of the same film. I tend to only buy multiple copies when there's something particularly to offer, and you know, speaking of which, it's see if we do this without completely collapsing my shelf. So when I was at university and I was doing film studies, my lecturer Ben Halligan, he got me a couple of films that were really kind of difficult to get hold of at the time. Cannibal Holocaust, he got me a bootleg of that. But he kind of like says, "Oh, Glenn, have you seen Salo?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Oh, you've got to watch that." So that was the version I got when I was at university. So that was in about 2001 that I got this. So it's a weird sort of cardboard box sort of thing that I'm always worried will get incredibly dirty, but it never has. It's remarkably wiped clean. And there's not really much in there in the way of extras, really. But then they eventually sort of released the this version of it, which is a dual format version, with loads of extras, all that kind of stuff. Interesting copy. Not a film that I will want to watch here time and time and time again, but it's one of the things I love about the physical media is when they do a new release, they're sort of pushed towards doing new stuff to accompany it, because that's the selling point. All those extra bits and pieces that you put on it. Yeah. Isn't it like Faces of Death? No one reviews that but you did. Faces of Death is a film that does have something that you can talk about. I mean, not least its historical kind of significance in terms of, you know, what it was, when it was, you know, and how it relates to other films from like kind of Mondo and stuff like that. But yeah, right. Okay, very quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link into the chat, so you can get yourselves all kind of queued up. That is the movie for tonight. But yes, so get yourselves kind of ready to watch that, and we'll get started in about 7 minutes time, thereabouts. But yeah, Faces of Death and stuff, there's historical context to that film and all that kind of stuff, and it does actually have at least some kind of purpose. It's not a huge amount of purpose. It's not like the film Executions, which was really kind of very sharp in its purpose, but it does have some purpose. And the director turned out to be quite a nice guy. I never thought I'd ever get to kind of like make any kind of contact with that guy. I mean, he was anonymous for God knows how long. Was I referencing Sweet Movie? No, Salo. To me, stuff like August Underground has more in common with shock rock like G.G. Allen than experimental. Yeah, there's that, but there are elements of experimental art as well. A sort of almost sort of primitive filmmaking kind of thing going on. You can apply that kind of stuff to it, but it is what it is. It's just not something that kind of interests me. Oh, just so you know, I'll be hopefully dropping a review by the end of the weekend. It's on Carriers, but I also picked up this, which is like the film that the directors of Carriers did after that. interesting little film. Not massively amazing, but certainly decent. Da, 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 da. Do I like Agnes Varda? I don't know Agnes Varda. Doesn't ring a bell. Oh dear, oh dear. Solo, sponsored by Weetabix. Okay. You have to be of a certain age to appreciate that reference. I'm just going to grab another beer. Be right back. Oh, here I come. Oh dear, oh dear. Need to watch Come and See. Okay. You can get any film from torrent sites, but if you really like a film after watching it, I get original. I'm just not interested in jumping through all the hoops of torrent sites and the legal risks and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to either watch it on YouTube or I'll watch it. I'll go out and buy it. I mean, there's plenty of films that I've got that I would call films that I don't particularly like. I'm always very reluctant to get rid of as well. In many respects, I tend to try to hold on to films that I don't love just because I don't know. It's almost like book burning to me to throw films away. So it really takes something for it to be completely worthless for me to chuck out. And generally, if I do get rid of videos, or sorry, should I say DVDs and stuff, it tends to be the very common kind of Hollywood crap that I've watched once and got very tired of. I haven't seen Come and See. I don't think I have. It rings a bell though. The Blu release of Salo is definitely one of the best. Yes, it's a pretty different, decent version. Should we do a watch along of Salo? Oh, that would be that would be fun. Adam, yeah, just drop it on my Facebook and remind me of Ramblaholics or something like that. Link me to something on there. Threw up watching Salo, especially for the circular shit. I can't say it ever made me want to throw up. It's grim, but yeah. I really thought Salo was shit. No, I don't think it is a shit film. I mean, I know you're joking in some respects, but a lot of people really hate that film, and I don't think it's a movie that's worthy of hate. I think it's an interesting film. Funny enough, I just did recently podcast with worst date movies. So that will be coming out, I believe, this next week or so. And we talked about a Serbian film. So that was kind of interesting. So I'll let you guys know on Facebook when that comes out, because actually I had a really good time doing it. Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good fun. Super strong stomach, so I'd watch Salo to see if that statement's true. Salo's a weird one, because for all the craziness of it, it's a very austere film. It's not one that sort of drives, at least attempts to drive you into kind of like just gross out sort of kind of moods. It's not just doing that. It's a way smarter film than that. They did do one on Salo. In fact, we referenced Salo an awful lot as we were talking about a Serbian film. So I had to rewatch that film, and I rewatched it twice actually before we did the podcast. It was kind of interesting. He interviewed me for about an hour about, kind of YouTubing and all that kind of stuff, and why I do it, and then we talked about the movie for an hour. So I'm kind of looking forward to see that go up. But it was a very easy conversation, very breezy, and it sort of got me thinking about, doing something of a similar nature myself, where I sit there and talk to someone, rather than just sitting here myself talking to you. Obviously, I've got you guys in the chat and stuff, but yeah, I gotta have a think about that. Okay, start giving us a thumbs up if you're ready to go, and we will get going with the movie. We're going to be watching Nightmares, otherwise known as Stagefright, I believe. I've no idea particularly about this. I think it's an Australian film. It looks a little bit crazy. Do you think a Serbian film will ever get released uncut? In the UK, maybe at some point in 10, 15 years. Depends. I think at the moment you can only really get it in America. Okay, folks. Yeah, bear in mind a Serbian film did get Section 3'd a few years ago. The police walked into a video store and started taking them off the shelf on the, based on a complaint from a citizen who rang into the police station saying, I think there was obscene material on the shelf of that video store. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to go on 5 and go on go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. I hasten to add that this is a suggestion from Kerry from a few weeks back. I did have a quick flick through it and it looks kind of interesting. I always wonder if a Serbian film is censored in Serbia. I don't know, actually. I don't know any Serbians to ask. Why am I getting Pieces vibes from this? I'm just checking to see who actually suggested it. It's alright, she's only humping his leg, it's fine. Yeah. Yes, it was Kerry. It was you. I could screen cap it for you. Isn't that what triggered the killer in Nightmares and a Damaged Brain? Very similar, yes. That's a depressing ass movie. Nightmares in a Damaged Brain was an interesting one because of how the director got treated. You're welcome, Richard. I'll ask you at the end if you like this format of what we've just done. We could do Nightmares in a Damaged Brain at some point. I'm about ready for another watch on. Oh, hello. That's mildly unfortunate. Director or video release company. I think it was the video release company, Blue Iris. Although I can't remember. Actually got kind of hauled up in court about it. But they had this thing of like guests awaited the brain in a jar at the premiere. Which I think it was at somewhere like the Prince Charles Cinema. GLC at the, back in those days was a rather interfering bunch, to say the least. Yes, Adam, you're quite right. Click every trip. Although, let's not evoke memories of the person who kind of, shall we say, fronted that campaign. You say you suggested Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, but you actually did suggest Nightmares 1980. I'm looking at it right now. Was that Brian May? I think you made a bit of an oopsie, but you know, we get to see a film we've not seen before, so. Not sure if Nightmares and a Damaged Brain is actually on YouTube or not, but if it is, we'll do that at some point. We've got Hitcher to watch as well. You killed your mother. You little bitch. I think Don't Go in the House would be quite an interesting one to watch as well. Interesting use of the first person camera sort of thing going on. Especially with the sort of the way they've shot it. And as I understand it, glass plays something of a part in this film. Little bit of a bugger, this kid. Well, they're certainly going for it in this film, aren't they? The director's got something of a vision going on. Remember hiding my video nasties under the bed in the 90s after seeing the raids on the news. They didn't tend to go for kind of private collections, more stuff that was on sale. I mean, obviously, in the 90s, the video nasties kind of like seizures and that kind of stuff were a lot less. Although there was that sort of second that resurgence of it. when it came to like natural born killers and all that kind of stuff, and Crash, and the interaction that Daily Mail had with Crash. Was it Chris Tukey or Christopher Hart, who gave it a very, very bad review despite having refused to see the film. Ah. Okay, Kieran. Drop that on Ramblaholics at some point. After the Bolger incident, cops started raiding video fairs and prosecuting films again. Yeah, but like I say, it's mostly kind of like, people selling films and stuff like that. Certainly when it came to films like Natural Born Killers, because of the difficulty in getting hold of those films, they became sort of popular on the pirated scene, apart from anything else, the bootleg scene. Which is what it's something that the Video Nasties definitive documentary part 2 kind of covers a lot of that stuff. You remember Dark Side magazine being raided? Really? I'd be interested in seeing an article on that, if there is any. Yeah, like I say, I think it was before you joined, Mikey was provisionally given a certificate. The BBFC said, yeah, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be an 18, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the Bolger incident happened, and then they basically went, yeah, we're not giving you a certificate now. Thank you, Kieran. The censorship sort of stuff tends to come and go in cycles. It's kind of weird. Potentially we could have another 1990s sort of sweep of censorship because of what's just happened with the shooting. And the BBFC seem to be kind of moving much more towards that kind of stuff again, at least kind of in terms of their openness and stuff, they seem to be regressing somewhat, which is a real shame. I don't want to see them go back to the pre-Furman, the Furman days and the likes. Was it Plymouth? I think it was, Byron. Because he was a younger guy as well, and shall we say a single white male, and a gun owner. I kind of get the feeling there'd be a certain amount of attention given to the films that he mentioned, like was mentioned earlier, Terminator. It's a lot harder to prevent people from seeing films and media these days compared to the 1980s. Won't stop them trying, though. Yeah, I do remember that song because I've got a version of it up there that has that cut. I think that was the final, like, remaining cut in the UK Dawn of the Dead film. Excuse me. There have always been decisions made regarding sensitive times. I think there was an incident where a police academy film was cut on TV because of an incident in Northern Ireland. Yeah, TV cuts are weird and often quite amusing. I'm not sure what's more egregious, the cardigan or the moustache. Oh, we seem to have appeared in a sleazier version of The Room. It's as much to do with the forms of distribution, though, Minties. We didn't have the internet and all that kind of stuff, so video fairs and all that kind of stuff were and adverts in magazines were the way to go. Yeah, quite Kerry. Oh, I quite agree, Adam. There's a lot of groping in this movie. Yeah, we definitely got boobies. It's a bit of game of name that body part, though, isn't it? With some of these close-ups. I always remember the TV series A Question of Sport, the quiz show, and they'd get like kind of like the obscured photo, and they'd be like kind of like that, trying to figure it out. Oh, blood on boobs. That's the MPAA out. Caught with his trousers down. Yep. Like I say, definitely getting sort of Pieces vibes from this. That's in Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. Well, it's not quite as sleazy as Nightmare in a Damaged Brain. You're after a film called Pinocchio about a killer doll from the 80s. Speaking of Pieces, I watched another film from the same director, Pod People. It sucks. Pieces is a weird film in its own right. So many people really, really, really love that film, and I can kind of understand it, but it's kind of a janky movie when it comes down to it. I just wanted to say one video yours I watch over and over against your video on physical media. Okay. Oh, you liar. Well, she is the damaged kind, I guess, but we're getting a slight crossing of the lines kind of thing going on. It's got an interesting style going on in this film, I'll give it that much. It's really buying into the theatre thing. Can't say I've met too many directors like this guy. They're not terribly over the top like this. I've met more lighting designers like this guy. What an eccentric response. She's go through all the responses, isn't she? All the emotions. So talking about a Child's Play rip-off. Just in case none of you chaps have been married before, if you find one like this, never marry her. Get a dog and be happy instead. Yeah, fair enough. So is this exploitation? I've never been happy with the whole kind of exploitation or Canucksploitation kind of description for a movie. When I get like the suffix exploitation, I think it ought to be kind of like related to what the film's about. Like non-exploitation is one thing, Nazi-exploitation is one thing. But just going, because it's British, you can call it like Brit-exploitation. It's like, really? You're just identifying the country, not kind of what the film's about. But I've had pushback on that from Cecil Trachtenberg and Josh Hadley on that one. Any minute, I'm expecting a young stagehand Glenn on work experience to make a cameo in one of the theatre scenes in this film. They beat me at the top of a very, very tall ladder, probably completely out of the lighting. Thanks for that, Simon, because that was playing on my mind. It's like, really? Okay. Doesn't sound like Brian May. So what I like about having Simon around, he's got all those kind of little bits of background information. It doesn't really explain why she is so traumatized by her parents having, or at least mother and boyfriend, whatever, having sex. What it is that really kind of threw her off kilter. At least in something like Boogeyman, the nature of the trauma is kind of laid out. Hey, nice one, Kieran. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to sort of respond to your message, but I'll try and do that tomorrow. That you left me on Facebook. Been trying to get this new review done, so hopefully I'm starting the editing tomorrow. It's all recorded and, well, written and recorded. I just got to edit it now. Best Nazi exploitation movie for me was Bruno Mattei's Women's Camp 1. I would have to say Gestapo's Last Orgy is probably one of the better ones at the exploitation kind of end of the market. Not perfect. And rather ridiculous use of gerbils, but... And how many times do you get to say that about a movie? Rather ridiculous use of gerbils. At least they weren't painted guinea pigs, I guess. Yeah, the Nazi exploitation doesn't have an awful lot of great movies in it. Oh, your reviews, Glensploitation. Don't tend to be about me, do they? So, going by my standards alone, I'd have to say no. I'd say it was exploitation. I hate directors like... Excuse me. I hate directors like this. You don't have to understand the script. You just have to say the words. I'm saying that's probably going to be pretty high, Minty. You enjoyed the one with the hairy chap in in a cage. That was a crazy, crazy movie. I don't know if Salon Kitty and Night Porter really class as Nazi exploitation, but they obviously hit similar kind of themes. I would say, I mean, the direction in this is interesting. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. There's clearly ideas and vision sort of going on. And it could have so easily been shot very much more plainly. But, you know, a lot of the set design kind of reflects a sort of theatre, even in scenes that are not supposed to be in a theatre. Things like that. Uh-oh. Low budget Manos. Sorry, Zardos. God, can you imagine what an even lower budget Manos would be? Crikey. Of course, it's not like this in real theatre life. It's all about the I lie. See, that's not very realistic, because when you turn the lights out in a theatre, you're usually supposed to shout like "going dark." They did get to shoot in a pretty cool little theatre, though. Say little, it's actually quite big. Can be quite spooky places, can theatres. Not really, Adam, at least not that I've heard. I think he got the... I think he won his case. But as nobody's tried anything with Manos since then, so I don't think he's had much chance to do anything. If he's inclined, he might not be inclined. He might have been telling the truth. Wonder if John Boorman told Sean Connery not to worry about the meaning and just read the lines. Glenn, were you a tape trader back in the day? I remember meeting loads of people back in the 80s. Great memories. No, I wasn't. I was a bit young for that. My pocket money wouldn't have stretched to, several £100. Something visceral about glass being used to cut people, isn't it? Just ask Edward, yeah. All of Edward's movies in a box set. That's interesting. I think the magic of Ed Wood is just the... It's not the so bad it's good sort of thing. It's more the sincerity that he made the movies with. I think that's always important. Remember getting Last House on Dead End Street in about 87 from a guy who owned kennels in Glasgow. He had everything. Yeah. I mean, that's still a pretty unusual film to be able to get your hands on. Interesting. It's genuinely interesting film. In just about every aspect, there's the whole kind of... what the film is and how it was made and all that kind of stuff. The behind the scenes sort of stuff is fascinating as well. When I did the review of Last House on Dead End Street, I had the daughter, the director, dropped a comment on my channel, which was interesting. She said he would have been very amused by seeing his film talked about in the way that I talked about it. That's what makes films from Wood and Why so entertaining. They were legitimately trying, as opposed to making intentionally bad movies. Yeah. Jess Franco's, a lot of his films are very much in that vein as well. Even when he was doing the Eurocine trash. And I just watched Cecilia just recently, which is one of the Eurocine films of Jess Franco. And it's got all those usual Eurocine trappings. I've not Blue Iris. Yes, Beds Are Burning. Political activist song. Very good one. Not everybody who listens to it actually knows what it's about. It's actually quite clear once you start listening to the lyrics, but he went on to be the singer from Midnight Oil, went on to be a politician, and now he's kind of I think he became some sort of cultural minister, something like that. You remember recommended Cecilia months ago. It's right up here. This company in particular is doing a lot of the Jess Franco collection. I think it's mostly the Eurocine stuff. There's a lot of Jess Franco out on the market at the moment. Of course, Simon won't like that. I can hear you typing, Simon. Yeah, a little bit objectionable. I think the first or the last time that Jess Franco would go with some fairly objectionable stuff. Though, from what I understand, Jess Franco had a kind of only a partial sort of involvement with the film. I think there was a falling out or something like that, and he did part of the film, and the rest of it was done by another director. I don't know that one, Sammy. Vocal warm-ups, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the world of the actor's vocal and facial warm-up. It's always amusing. The Eurocine stuff that Jess Franco did was actually, generally speaking, very well produced in terms of the film quality and all that kind of stuff. The actual kind of nuts and bolts of what the film is. But they tended to be very frivolous, kind of sexploitation in many respects. Jess Franco often kind of subverted them slightly, as best he could, without actually going outside the mandate of what they wanted. There's usually a little something going on there, but it's kind of hidden in this sort of TNA movie. real fixation with the glass, hasn't she? You have a soft spot for Commando. Okay. I take it you're talking about the Schwarzenegger movie. Yeah, I remember enjoying that immensely as a young man. Don't mention Macbeth. I'm not a fan of Chuck Norris, I have to say, Simon. I've absolutely no drive to kind of watch his movies. No, I haven't. Sounds like fun, Brian. See, that thing with the prompt in at the side of the stage is, in my experience, a very, very rare thing these days. The actors tend to kind of improv around any problems that they have with the script. Part of the stage is called Prompt Corner, and that's where the, generally speaking, where the DSM, the Deputy Stage Manager, will sit with the script and cueing the show. I think I've only ever, in all the years I've been working in theatre, seen live prompts happen probably less than half a dozen times. I'm liking this critic guy. Do critics really give directors such a hard time? Pernicious ones, possibly. I very rapidly, when I started doing all this kind of stuff, came to the conclusion that I didn't want to be too brutal with any particular human being that was involved with the film. There are exceptions. Most of the time they tend to be kind of like big Hollywood people who can, take it. But certainly when you look at a film like this, smaller scale productions and all that kind of stuff, I would certainly, kind of like try to be sympathetic to that sort of thing. Is that right? There is a Jess Franco film, and I think it's called A Butthole for Three. But there is absolutely one film, the one Jess Franco film that I would absolutely, I'd pay very good money to see, called AIDS: A 20th Century Plague. Apparently it still exists as far as I understand, but it's in the Eurocine vaults. And they've never felt compelled to release it, and I can probably understand why. Is the chat still working? Ah, good. It's just people being quiet. Don't think I've ever seen like critics kind of typing up their review in the actual in the theatre. Another movie for you guys is Maîtresse with Gerard Depardieu. Really? As I understand it, he did some really quite raunchy stuff in his earlier career, didn't he? All right, Kerry, take care. They really are making use of this theatre space. Apparently 4 different theatres were used to film this. Really? Okay. Must have been in the quiet season. Always up for a bit of Richard Harrison, huh? Okay. Bloody fly in it. God, he's a creepy fuck, isn't he? Well, you know where to put them, Kieran. Ramble-Aholics page. What I need to do is set up a a list, basically a thread which I'll pin to the top. That is a sort of repository, and then as we go through them, I'll just delete them. Creepy Critic was played by one of the scriptwriters. Really? Okay. At least he didn't cast himself in a kind of like vanity role, I guess. Didn't Godfrey Ho do two of the Men Behind the Sun sequels? Yeah, he did. No, that's it. I have seen them, Simon. So, but yeah, they're not very related to the original. But then again, four's not really related to the first one either. Four being the Nanjing Massacre, Black Sun. But one and four are legitimately good movies. This critic's a bit on the Michael Winner kind of side things, isn't it? Weird Science would be a weird, strange one for the channel, I think, but the Hitcher definitely. Cafe Flesh, I think I've seen that one. I was actually sort of planning on doing a video on sort of golden age porn, but I didn't think I'd ever get away with it on YouTube. You know, not kind of like showing anything particularly explicit or anything like that, but even doing that, it'd be very difficult to not be in violation of community terms and whatever. One was based on the antics of odd choice of words, but yeah, of Unit 731, which is actually astonishingly accurate what they depict in that film. Yeah. But you're quite right. I mean, I've reviewed both of them along the way. The Rutger Hauer Hitcher. Yeah, that's what I was just saying, Kieran. Regret how Hitcher is very, very good. The remake one was a little bit well, concentrated far too much on the gore and stuff. Yeah, it's a tricky one to approach, but I was interested in doing something on Golden Age stuff, Golden Age porn stuff. So looking at sort of things like Deep Throat, Behind the Green Door, and so on and so forth. Debbie Does Dallas. Doing it as a kind of like not as a review so much as it is a kind of an analysis of the movement, if you like. First person to write thrust in the in the comments gets my disdain. No. Yeah, I don't hate Sean Bean at all, but it was kind of miscast for that particular role, I think. It's not like I haven't reviewed films that could legitimately be called porn on my channel before. I've done on plenty of occasions, but going into that sort of stuff in any kind of depth, particularly with those kind of titles, would definitely get me the wrong kind of attention. I'm the Hitcher. Yeah, the remake of Hitcher really kind of just sort of focused much more on being trying to be more graphic. I don't think it could really match the tension of the original. Or even if it could, it's like, then what's the point? You know, if all you're doing is recreating it. So they kind of went for the more modern, gory aesthetic, and it felt a lot more hollow. Wasn't that Wrong Way movie a borderline porno? Pretty much, yeah. Certainly ends up that way. That is absolutely abysmal as well, that film. So the car breaks down with the two girls in it and on a country road. So the first thing you do is go to the boot and then strip off and change. It's like, oh my god, here we go. No, I haven't, but I had heard about it, Simon. Brian, yeah, probably. So in that room with all that broken glass and all that broken equipment, shit that's lying around, he manages to find a one piece of glass with the blood on it. I still stand by Alien 3 as being a pretty decent movie. No, I haven't, Sammy. I'm hoping tomorrow I'll get powered through the at least the vast majority of the editing for the new review. Be nice to get that one up. I'm off doing archery on Sunday. Alien 3 was a bloody mess. Finished script was cobbled together from two different scripts and rewritten by the producers. Yeah, it's a film that was deeply flawed, but the construction cut kind of makes sense of a lot of it. It's still not a perfect film, but I like the tone and the feel of it. And I wasn't so wedded to the characters of Hicks and Newt that it bothered me particularly. Don't Answer the Phone is a sleazy ass movie. Archery is a good activity. Yeah, you do it as well. I've been invited. Well, my friend kind of like said, "Do you want to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? You know, get me out of the house for a day. Well, for a few hours." So I've got to get my Robin Hood hat on. Not that you're biased, are you, Simon? I don't know. I've seen plenty of sleaze, Kieran. Don't Answer the Phone really is. It's like it's such a weirdly leering movie. I'll have to watch it again at some point just for the lols. Are you good as Robin Hood, Glenn? Well, I don't know yet. Hopefully, I won't shoot myself in the foot or nothing silly. DSM in the shot. But she didn't say which Q that was. Q59, it could mean anything. Is that LX? SFX? Pyrotechnics? Fly Q? You don't know. So she goes like kind of Q59 go. It's like which are you talking LX sound? What? No idea. More sex, dearie me. Yes. It's a theatre. It's passions run high. Enlighten us, Kieran. There is a lot of shagging in this film, apparently. Oh. Is that right, Kieran? Holy crap. Yeah, rooting in Oz. Root, we got a root. Wes Craven's best film is Angela the Fireworks. Yes, I have seen that. It's a strange movie. He denies actually directing it, but looking at it, yeah. At least make some effort to recoil. Oh, now the costume lady's got to clean all those costumes. Well done. No, she's not putting up much of a fight. And to be honest, if you're most of the time when you're leaving backstage in a theatre, you have to go past a stage doorkeeper. I think he might have noticed, or she. See, I would actually check the BBFC history of this if you could do that these days. But the BBFC are very, very naughty boys and girls, and they've gone and taken away the facility to be able to check the history of cuts and stuff. Because I imagine this film would have been heavily cut. The case studies do, but the individual films' histories don't. Unless I'm wrong. So if you want to find the history of something like this film and how the BBFC kind of handled it, then you can't do that these days because they gimped the website. See, I don't even have the most extreme sort of opinion on the BBFC, and they're wrong. I've always been relatively sympathetic towards them for someone who's very anti-censorship. But, yeah, the backpedaling they've done and the hiding the decisions and stuff like that is not great. I haven't, Sammy. So many films being mentioned tonight that I haven't seen. It's always quite humbling, though, because it's like, I've seen a lot of films, obviously, but it's always so many more that are out there. Josh Hadley's a bugger for that. Have you seen this film, that film, the other film? No. Call yourself a critic. Funny enough, so many of the theatres I've been in really do kind of look this sort of rough and ready. The dressing rooms in a lot of them are very basic. He's dead tired, yes. Is there more humping going on? I will check that out, Sammy. Just put it on the IMDb. Try and remind myself. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm watching it under these sort of circumstances or not. But the film's not quite nailing the tension, is it? Mind you, I think there's something kind of odd going on with my sound, so that might actually be kind of impacting this a little bit. I've seen a few of Norman J. Warren's films, but I don't think Bloody New Year I've seen. God, that's expensive Blu-ray for Hunting Ground. I've quite enjoyed Norman J. Warren's films, as basic as they often are. Look, you don't have murder going up on the flies. It's a very dangerous thing to be doing. Because, this happens. We tried getting the Warren box set, but it sold out quickly and everywhere the price skyrocketed. Yeah, it's the collector's editions though, isn't it? There was a bunch of them going out at one time. It was like, yeah, it'd be really kind of interesting to get that. But yeah, I can't afford. At least I don't feel inclined to spend 150 odd quid for a box set of DVDs. Are you in technical heaven with this film? It's interesting seeing kind of like the theatre used as a set in this kind of way. Cheapest is $23.41. Not super expensive, but not particularly cheap either. Oh, you got it. Yeah. And obviously, I really enjoy Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, so it'd be interesting to see that. Not that I think it's going to be a similar film in many respects, but I thought the direction on Manchester Morgue was pretty good. Oh, auditions for a new cast of corpses. That's a weird film. That's a very weird film. Interesting ideas, not entirely successful. But yeah, why not? Oh dear. Yeah, you're going to struggle to find that. I think particularly because a box set like that is one that you tend to buy to keep. But yeah, does remind me of the Last Night British horror film. Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't awful by any means. Some interesting ideas sort of going on. Certainly interesting locations. And a few sort of ideas with the whole kind of direction of how the direction's handled. Just felt like it lacked a certain amount of urgency. Not quite sure. Not quite sure about that one. But then again, we had the chance to watch a film like that I haven't seen before, so that's another one off the list. Probably only several 100,000 more to go. Normally the films are released as a single after the box. Yeah, normally they would be. But yeah, it's been a few of those kind of directorial sort of based box sets which have been quite interesting. I think most of the Jess Franco box sets that have sort of come out have always been pretty much the same titles. But there's a whole bunch more of those coming out. But, yeah. Right. Anyone seen The Brute? No, haven't seen that. I think we're going to call it a night at this point. So over at Ramblaholics or on Facebook or whatever, let me know how you felt about this and all that kind of stuff, or in the comments, whatever. Do it where you will. But it seemed to be an interesting kind of way of doing the evening, so yeah, why the hell not? So I will say good night to everyone. Have a lovely weekend. I will see you at the latest next Friday. Yeah, by which point, yeah, it will be next Friday. And I'll have a new review up for you pretty soon. I think it'll be... It should be a fairly interesting one. It's not one that I would have... I think you'll have expected from me. Because it's a lot newer and a lot more contemporary than I would normally cover. But I think it's a film that was actually kind of worth a bit of a review. So, good night, folks. Have a lovely time this weekend. Look after yourselves, and I will see you next weekend. Bye-bye.